Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm Go Local News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us for the Friday close to noontime show. We are popping up early with a special guest, artist Domenic Esposito. Thank you for coming into the studio today.
Thank you, Kate.
I appreciate it. We'll tell you why he's here. Now, we've been writing extensively about Purdue and the Sackler family's contributions to Governor Gina Raimondo here, as the state is, along with other states, suing Purdue for their role in the OxyContin and the opioid crisis. Now, as Go Local has reported, Rhodes Technologies is a subsidiary of Purdue and has the patent for an anti-opioid drug. And artist Domenic Esposito had a unique role in Connecticut in bringing light to this issue at Purdue down there. I could fill folks in, but I'm going to let you tell folks a little bit behind this effort.
Yeah, so Kate, thanks. So what we did is I made an 800-pound metal spoon with a depiction of a burnt, so it's typically it's a burnt heroin spoon. It's 10 feet long, and on June 22nd of this year, we went ahead and placed that in front of the biggest drug dealer in the world. That is
brought a little attention both from the news and the law enforcement standpoint.
That's right. So the spoon was impounded for 2 months by the Stanford police, and Fernando Alvarez, my co-conspirator and co-crime coordinator, was arrested on charges of a misdemeanor for obstruction of free passage.
Now, had you expected this when this came about? Talk with us a little bit about the backstory, bringing attention to this issue in such a unique way, using your artistic skills to, again, no one was going to miss this, that's for sure.
No, so I'm going to talk a little bit about, why the spoon, what the spoon means for me personally, and what it means for a lot of those in recovery and addiction. So the spoon for me it's a dark symbol. My brother is a recovering addict. He's clean or sober now for close to a year. Actually, in 3 days, it'll be a year. He's been in and out of jail. It's something we've been dealing with as a family for about 12 years, so quite a long time. But right at the peak of it, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, my mom would call me in this screaming panic, in this broken English. I found another burnt spoon in the house, and there it is all over again. So you've spent all this time and energy taking him to rehab facilities, and you think he's doing well, and then it all kind of falls apart with a simple instrument, right? So you're like, okay, here's this negative dark symbol, and that's what that meant to me, that spoon. And I wanted to sort of bring it to the forefront because my brother, like a lot of substance abuse disorder or addicts have witnessed that they started off on OxyContin or Percocet, right? So 80% of heroin users will actually admit to having started on OxyContin or Percocet. So that's the symbol behind the spoon, why it means a lot to me, and why it's in front of Purdue Pharma, why we placed it in front of Purdue Pharma.
How does one create a 9-foot spoon?
10 foot.
10 foot. Don't shortchange it.
So 10 foot. Actually, if you unbent it, and you've got to take a look at this, and hopefully it'll be on your website. It's close to 19 feet long, so it's actually
so
really,
furled.
Yeah,
you gotta furl it.
yeah. So it's 10 feet that way. So basically, we used a lot of kind of a similar process that you would use to make an auto body for a car, right?
Okay.
So like we use this thing called an English wheel, which is sort of a very difficult machine to use, and you're rolling this sheet metal through there. We're not really using sheet metal. This is actually really heavy gauge steel to hold the whole thing in place. So the bottom of it is actually 1 inch thick solid steel. So the bottom alone weighs 300 pounds.
I was going to say, so how did you transport it? Did a lot of folks know about this, or is it like super top secret, like only you and Fernando knew and just unfurled it?
Only Fernando and I. We had to have a videographer. Also, obviously, he knew about it. We made a press release that morning.
Yeah, but up until then, it was top secret.
It was top secret.
So how does one move a top secret 10-foot spoon in the middle of the night? I mean, I would imagine a few people had to carry it.
Yeah. So we basically use this. I have a big truck, an F-250, and I have a motorcycle trailer that fits 2 bikes. So we basically wanted this thing covered so no one could see it, so it fit in the motorcycle trailer. We created this large, basically putting 2 pallets together, and then having casters on the pallets, and that was a way that we kind of would roll it around up and down the ramp. So we pulled up into in front of Purdue Pharma, I had my yellow, construction vest on, so it's kind
At
of
that
blended
point.
into.
You construction, try to be like, oh, we're just here to.
Yeah, we're working, we're workers here, just dumping off an 800-pound spoon, so that's.
800 pounds.
Yeah.
800 pounds. Attention to this. When did the security for Purdue come out and say something? How instantaneous was the reaction?
It was relatively quick. I mean, it just kept getting escalated. So the first police officer that showed up was one of the municipal police on a bike. And he's like, "What are you guys doing here?
What's going on here?"
Yeah, I gotta call the police station now. We're not gonna move it. So then the first cruiser comes and the police officer comes out. He's like, "What are you guys doing?" He takes everyone's license. Then it gets escalated to the sergeant. Then the sergeant comes. He tries to talk us off the ledge, me and Fernando. And
was he like, move the spoon? You're like, it's kind of hard to move an 800-pound spoon.
Yeah, we're like, no, we're not moving it.
You're like, this is a protest.
Yeah, it's done. The truck's gone.
So it's you two dealing with the police. And now, were crowds assembling at this point? Were people really starting to get curious as to?
Yeah, we had, by the end of it, it sat there for over an hour and a half, close to an hour and a half. There was close to 10 police cars there. About a dozen police officers, including the captain. The captain had to call into the state AG to figure out what to do, what the charges would be. We had the media there. The New York Times was there, the Hartford Courant. We had our own videographer, 2 photographers, and all the bystanders kind of just walking around, honking.
So you're kind of waiting. You knew this was coming.
Yeah.
But you weren't quite sure also what to expect. Now, Fernando, but not you.
He was arrested, yes. So they wanted to deal with one person. They thought it would be easier to negotiate with one person versus the 3 of us that were there, 3 or 4 of us. So he raised his hand and decided to be a negotiator in terms of like, we're not moving the spoon. It wasn't a lot to negotiate, but they wanted, and eventually they really didn't want to arrest us. The Stanford Police Department was phenomenal, and they were real gentlemen. These are the guys on the front line
who see it every day.
They're carrying Narcan. They knew what we were up to and what the meaning was. So.
And what was the national reaction when you did this? Again, you knew this day the gloves were coming off and all this attention was going to be paid on this. What was the feedback that you heard?
It was phenomenal. It was just absolutely phenomenal. It made a lot of papers, not just nationally, but globally. We're in South America, we're in the UK, some great art newspapers as well. And the feedback we got was, what was really touching to us was a lot of the moms that have lost their children and lost their sons and daughters to this epidemic. They were the ones who were really reaching out to us. I stayed up that night. It was one of the most difficult nights and emotional nights in my life that I can remember. I was up till 3 or 4 a.m. just reading messages on Facebook and Instagram with people congratulating me for doing what needed to be done to bring an attention to this criminal organization. So it was really moving to use art as a way to sort of to showcase just that kind of energy that was needed to bring to the forefront these corporate criminals.
No, we've discussed here and we've reported it here at Go Local, several politicians, including the governor, getting donations from the Sackler family and raising questions here as the state and other states look to about that.
Yeah, I think from our standpoint, we would love to see politicians really put their money where their mouth is in terms of we really want to end this epidemic. You're talking about 300,000 lives lost, 20 million addicted, right? Our whole message is about accountability, right? And the right kind of accountability. And it's going to start with our senators, our governors, and our AGs. A lot of them are doing the right thing. They're suing Purdue Pharma, but it's not enough. We know these guys really need to go to jail. And senators and politicians who have taken money, be on the lookout, because you know what? This is going to be the next big election issue, right? It really is. And you're seeing it already in the midterm elections, and it's going to continue to be a big issue. And taking money from criminals like this, it's going to come out. It's going to come out, and it's going to continue to come out thanks to reporting like you do.
And so I'm sure you've heard from folks who might not know about the origins of the opioid epidemic and say, well, it was just a company thinking they were putting out a pain-killing drug, but the testimony's there, correct, of knowing what they knew and when and how addictive this drug was and how much it was marketed and pushed as not being addictive.
That's right. And not only that, there's already a case, right? So we had 2007, there was a lawsuit against Purdue Pharma, a federal lawsuit. not too dissimilar to what's going on now, although the ones now are on a larger scale. Purdue Pharma paid $634 million in fines. 3 of their executives were found criminally guilty. What did they do? They did community hours, right? I mean, 400 hours of community hours for killing a couple 100,000 people. Wow, great. That's justice. And what did we do? We trusted them, right, to do the right thing. What did they do? They stepped on the accelerator. It's like they had to make the money back. They had to make it back, right? So what do? They start pain clinics. They start pill mills. This stuff gets, at one point in 2016, 260 million prescriptions of OxyContin were given in this country. That's enough to fill a bottle for every person in this country for a month.
And obviously not every person in this country uses it, so that's the amount that was out there for folks who were using it, sort of in the correct manner or got addicted to it and unfortunately, went on to other things. And let's talk about the most recent development that I've seen you discuss and we brought to light here too. Rhodes Technology here in Rhode Island is the sort of off-label manufacturer of some of Purdue's pain medications, the off-label OxyContin. Now they have the patent for the antidote, if you will. And I've seen so many competing messages from Purdue. It seems like, we're going to do this from a nonprofit standpoint. I mean, the backlash is there is you created the problem, and are you actually going to profit from what is being dubbed the solution?
Yeah, the same thing. It's been a little confusing trying to follow what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. I'd say, personally for me, it disgusts me that they would even attempt to do this, right? I'm just purely just kind of disgusted about what they've, even the notion that they filed something to fix this problem. I mean, go give the money to somebody else to fix it. I mean, it's absolutely, it's crazy. It's just.
So we're going to bring Fernando here in a little bit, but I want to talk about how you and Fernando hooked up on this. Yeah,
so Fernando and I actually met not that long ago, about in April, and it was they always say you create your own luck, but we both happened on each other during a dinner put together by a friend of a friend of a friend. It was just this weird coincidence, and I told him about the spoon idea, and he at the same time had already scheduled an Opioid Express Yourself show, right? So this was a whole show based on the opioid epidemic that he had commissioned artists, and artists had done all this work. It was already fixed. The date was fixed. So I kind of came in late to the game. I'm like, no, I got this crazy spoon idea. I want to drop this 800-pound spoon in front of some place, and so we worked together. He came up with the strategy. Let's do Purdue Pharma. I mean, this is ground zero for it. We were going to do maybe a public building or something to get some attention, but and so we met in April. We had to, we kind of hit the ground running. Literally the next morning, he's at my house. He's like checking out my studio, like, this is for real. You can make it. Like, no, I had him already made a little maquette of the thing. So it was just off to the races, the strategy of making it and buying it, and later bought the steel that Monday. I mean, it was just,
So he went fully on board, and at that day, he's the one who took the arrest. I mean, he is walking the walk.
Yes. He's very, very passionate about this, as am I. But and it's just great. We make a great team together. I feel like we're kind of made for this movement together. I mean, it's just been a great friendship.
And speaking of the movement, again, this took place in June in Connecticut, outside of Purdue, but I see a lot of hashtags of Save the Spoon. You're here in Rhode Island. Talk with us about next steps.
Yeah, so Save the Spoon was really because the spoon was impounded, right? So during all, we inspired some protests that actually happened on Purdue Pharma after that. There was a protest August 17th and August 31st as well. And a lot of.
Is it still impounded?
It's not. So it came out 2 weeks ago, and it was part of the show. Finally got into the show.
We got
so it was
into
in
the
jail.
show. Thank goodness.
He was in jail for 2 months.
Did you go visit it? Did you have visiting hours?
They wouldn't let us see it. But the funny thing is, when it got released, this is just a total, completely waste of time, possibly. But when it got released, they had CSI have to take pictures of it because they still needed it as evidence for Fernando's court case. So you had CSI.
So they had the picture there with
I want to get a hold of those CSI pictures. That would be pretty funny.
So the spoon's release was part of the exhibit, but you're now, again, this is, as you said, a movement.
That's right. Yeah, the spoon movement, and you can follow it on hashtag the spoon, hashtag the opioid spoon movement through Facebook, and we're going to be launching hopefully something a little more that encompasses everything and kind of gives people more information about what our strategy is right now.
Well, again, as you're making your way outside Connecticut and all around and telling folks about this, while we have you in here and before we have Fernando on, what would you like viewers to know again about, again, this soup to nuts thought of producing the spoon, bringing attention to the issue? What else would you like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would love to give people encouragement to actually get out there and do something about it. Here it is, two guys. Two people. Look what we created, right? I mean, we created, a movement. We've also created some notoriety around Purdue and what they've done, right? That's gone national. Think about what everybody else can do. Everybody has a talent that they could put out there, right? And whether it's a march that you hear about. Get involved, because this is not just the next door neighbor, right? This is happening everywhere and at a very alarming rate. And unless we as citizens rise up against this, it's just not going to get any better. So that would be my 2 cents, is to really give people the courage really to get out there.
Now, just also before I have Fernando in, because we've had folks in here who have seen things from the flip side, the sort of don't punish the pain rally, and those folks that say, gosh, because of this problem that's been created by Purdue Pharma, now I'm having more trouble getting pain medications. Have you heard from those folks as well? So it's almost like there's a major issue on one hand, and there's also a small subset that are feeling sort of the after effects of it as well. Do you ever hear from those folks?
We have.
Yeah.
I've personally heard from them, just recently, just 2 weeks ago. What I would say to them, and I've said this in every interview, there is a place for OxyContin in this world, right? I mean, and funny, like I actually was in a discussion talk with the mayor of Boston, Mayor Walsh, and he had a great way of putting it. It's like, OxyContin should have been in this box, right? Right. We let it get outside of the box, and not only outside the box, it was like everywhere, right? Now we've got to get it back in the box. And make sure that box doesn't get smaller, right? So that's sort of the analogy, and I'm for that, right? There is a place for it. There's people with serious pain out there. There's cancer patients. There's a real need for this, right?
Yeah.
But it can't be. This is a synthetic heroin. It can't be just kind of disseminated out there, and it can't be gone. And someone needs to pay for the mistakes that have happened, that have gotten us this far.
And as you mentioned, and as we've reported, multiple states suing Purdue, you're bringing the attention to it both through the art world in advocacy, and we'll continue to report on it here. So I appreciate while you're here in Rhode Island, Domenic, telling us more about your role in this. So thank you so much, and we'll be continuing to report on it moving forward. But don't go anywhere, because we're going to be back with gallery owner Fernando Luis Alvarez and his role in this as well.